Sadhana this week, I've been doing a lot of different potent mantras. Now, this is quite unusual for me because usually I will just have one practice that I focus on, and particularly around mantra, I usually would be only working with one at a time. But there's been a bit of a vortex happening over the last couple of weeks. I think especially around Guru Purnima, there's definitely been some quite significant undercurrent changes I can feel just in my own Akashic field. So I think part of that has been expressing as this coming in of a range of very potent mantras. And I've definitely been feeling the power. It's been a little bit unsettling. So one of the things that I've been doing is having to continually ground into my body, just really be present in the body, in the sensation of the body, to bring myself back into my feet, into my hips, into my heartbeat, into the surroundings immediately around me. Because when we reach a point in our spiritual practice where our awareness is more refined, so we are more aware of the subtler changes in our being, that can feel quite ungrounding. So, this is why I speak into lipstick and enlightenment. I'm very keen and committed to having a full spectrum experience. And that is what I want to share, that what's available to us as we continue and progress on our spiritual path, we don't have to give up the materiality. We don't have to give up the physical world. In fact, it becomes even more important to be fully present in our physicality. So as I've been working with these mantras, and it is the potency of the way that Sanskrit is constructed, because the mantras are constructed on the basis, on the understanding that sound is vibration. So there is, of course, the meaning, the language meaning of the mantra, but then there is the sound. And within the sound, there is a subtler vibration that impacts the cells of the body, that impacts the breath, that impacts the mind. Some of them really directly and pretty immediately change your neurology. So there is all of this change happening within the human form. And that's why it becomes even more important to stay rooted and grounded in your material, physical presence. Okay, so for adornment this week, I want to talk about skincare. In the past few months, I've kept my skincare, my facial skincare, really simple. I have just been using pure shea butter and pure aloe vera. And I've been using a combination of those two. I've been going from one to the other depending on what the weather is doing, depending on what I'm doing during the day. So I've deliberately kept it really pure and simple. And the last couple of weeks, I've been feeling the pull to bring in something a little bit more complex, a bit more luxurious. So yesterday, I took a trip down into town, into Covent Garden, and visited the very, very beautiful Forest Essentials Ayurveda. And this is what I've got. I haven't even opened it yet, actually. It's a reviving Sanjeevani cream. I haven't opened it, but look at the box. It's exquisite. It was a really beautiful, exquisite experience going into that shop, which is the adornment. The entire experience, and this is why the way that we approach skincare in Ayurveda is that it's a holistic part of the experience. There is a holistic approach and understanding to the skin. There's nothing superficial about it. This is extremely important, that traditionally there is nothing superficial about caring for your skin, because there is this understanding that the mind, the body, and the prana all permeate each other. So the scent of it, they've put dried rose petals into the bag so that there is this cocoon of scent, this very nourishing, uplifting cocoon of scent. In my experience of making this purchase, of taking care of myself, it brings a very refined kind of focus into the way that you treat your body. It brings a very refined focus into the way that you treat your body. And what happens when we do this is that the body actually responds differently, because everything in the universe responds to attention. And in particular, it responds to the quality of attention. So if I'm giving uplifting attention to my skin, and if I'm bringing this nourished, refined attention into my skincare, my whole being, my whole system is nourished and uplifted by that. Consumption. This week, I've been thinking a lot about the way that we consume data, social media, and how that impacts our sense of reality. So I've been going for a lot of long walks, which I always enjoy. But this week in particular, it's been very much about grounding myself into my body and into my lived reality, into my lived reality. Because one thing that I've noticed with the convenience of having portable technology, a tablet, a phone, we have started to consume different layers of reality in a very flat way. So, what I mean by that is that we might be reading messages from friends, and then we go onto YouTube or we go onto social media, and then we have a phone conversation with somebody who's very close to us. And all of these things are happening in and out of each other as if they're just part of the same reality. So there's been this kind of flattening of experience. Whereas in the past, if you think about it, we had a television, you had a telephone, and you would watch a program and then you would go about your daily life. There was a much greater distinction. It was much easier to make a distinction between consuming entertainment and living in your lived physical bodily reality. But one of the things that has been happening, because of the fact that we now have the convenience of tablets and phones, everything is very portable. It's like all of the different aspects of our experience are being put into this one space. So for the mind to process that, the mind is now processing that in a very flat way, whereby your entertainment, the fiction that you're watching, occupies the same kind of space as an important conversation with a friend. That, I think, is problematic. So how do we deal with it? Well, come back into the body, come back into the body. That's why I'm always going to say, come back into the body. It is honestly the solution to so many of the challenges that we are experiencing as our reality is shifting. Going for long walks with the deliberate intention of coming back into the body and grounding myself into my reality, what is being experienced through this body. So, in fact, I speak about this in my ebook, The Yogic Science of Self-reinvention, and I'll put the link below, because when we are going through times of great change, times of sort of intense change in our life, that is another place where our sense of self can be pulled and shifted and ungrounded. Our sense of self can be unsettled when we're going through a lot of change. So going for a walk without any technology, I call this solo walking. So you go for a walk without any technology, without any distraction, and you become fully present for that 30 minutes, that hour. You become fully present to yourself, your body, and your immediate sensory surroundings. So I'll go for a walk by the river. There's the water, there are the trees, there are the people in little boats on the water. There are other people walking beside me, walking past me. There are runners walking past. So I'm now very present in my lived experience, and it is extremely beneficial to do this, whether you're going through a time of great flux in your life, or whether you're just finding that you've been spending too much time on your phone, consuming entertainment and on chats. I mean, that you'll notice how your consciousness gets pulled into the device. Your consciousness gets pulled into your phone. You need to pull your consciousness back out of your phone. This is what I have found this week. Especially that's the other piece. If you're going through a kind of a period of intense shift in your spiritual practice, as I have been in the last couple of weeks around Guru Purnima, I mentioned at the beginning of the video the potent mantras. So my sense of self has been going up and down and around and about. I've really had to make time this week to ground into my physicality. As you progress on the spiritual path, you will notice that your sense of self becomes more fluid. And that is a wonderful thing because you're no longer chained. Listen, most people go through their entire lives chained into a very tight structure. It's like a straitjacket kind of structure where their identity, their sense of self is very rigid. What we are trying to do, what we're aiming to do through spiritual practice is to loosen that sense of self so it becomes fluid, so it can be free of those rigid structures. And that's when your sense of identity changes. You can come more into witness consciousness. You are available to moving into universal consciousness. It's extremely important for your spiritual practice. And at the same time, you have to stay rooted and grounded. Otherwise, that practice will become overwhelming and you can really lose your sense of what is important, what's real. So you have to protect your sense of individuality as you are moving into greater experiences of universal consciousness, as your sense of individuality during your practice becomes freer, it becomes more unbounded. That's wonderful. And you have to keep grounding and rooting and cocooning your sense of individual self. So going for a walk is a fantastic way of doing that. Feel your feet on the ground. Be aware of the rhythm of your steps. Be aware of the symmetry in your body. Be aware of your skeleton as you move. Be aware of the air on your face, the sunlight, the people around you. No technology. You're going for a solo walk. Stay grounded. So this has been very much the flavor of my week this week. I've had the intense kind of mantra experiences and I've been very much at the effect of that. And at the same time, I've been rooting and grounding into my body through long solo walks.